The New Zealand Warriors, a team that not only encapsulated their home country, but also encapsulated the entirety of the rugby league world, had an absolute breakout season last year, essentially out of the blue. As a team that many predicted thought they were going to end up in the bottom dwellings of the ladder, shocked everybody when they were able to finish top 4 and were one game away from having their first grand final appearance in 12 years. Now, since that season's over and with a couple of new signings, we have to ask the question of, are the New Zealand Warriors title contenders? For me, in terms of significance of signings, we have to look to two players, Kurt Capewell and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. A man who has been a stalwart for the Queensland Maroons and, of course, his club, the Brisbane Broncos, was picked up for the effective immediately for this season to help bolster the forward pack, which honestly couldn't really be bolstered enough with some of the players that are in there. And then, of course, you've got the returning player of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, gone to rugby for a couple of years, but now has come back to the NRL to probably play in the centres. It's actually weird. It's like they brought in Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and then it's like, now where do we play him? Because this Warriors team is stacked. They'll be joining players like Chancellor Cole Clockstead, Darren Watine-Zelezniak, Marcelo Montoya, Luke Metcalf, Adam Pompey, Tamahi Martin, and of course, a player that a lot of people are convinced should have been given the Dally M last year, Sean Johnson. If it wasn't for two other players hogging the points, he would have had it. And that's just the backs. When we go into the forwards, you've got Anafanua-Blake in his final year at the club before he goes to Cronulla. You got Tohu Harris, Murata Niokora, Mitch Barnett, and the pizza man's worst nightmare, Dylan Walker. Like, this is a star-studded team. And with looking into this team, with obviously Adam Fanua-Blake leaving over the next year, there may be some question of doubts of, will this start to falter? But the development teams for the New Zealand Warriors have also been very good. A big consideration is their SG Ball and New South Wales Cup teams. Like, their New South Wales Cup team was dominating a lot of teams, and I think it was only just about the final hurdle. The Warriors ended up being knocked down. It was a South-North Sydney Grand Final. So there's a lot of positivity and potential that this sort of, quote, premiership window could actually be stretched out longer, but it's also a premiership window that's come out of nowhere. If we look into the sort of starting run for the Warriors in 2024, they're at home against Cronulla, which is a team that's sort of been falling down the wayside a little bit, so they should probably win that. A game against the Storm in Melbourne is going to be a very crucial one. Then they've got another couple of home games. They've got the Canberra Raiders in Christchurch. Then they take on the Knights in Auckland, which is going to be an interesting one because I think there's some Knights players who would like some revenge. Then they have the Sydney team sort of bubble as they take on Souths away, Manly at home, Dragons away, take on the Titans at home, and of course they play the Knights. It's weird how the Warriors and the Knights always end up playing both times within the first 10 rounds. But this, I feel, is crucial because they have made Auckland and just the whole of New Zealand a fortress. Similarly to how the Knights have made their stadium a bit of a fortress, but I think to the Warriors to an even bigger extent, is that the Warriors haven't lost at home since June. And they've got a bit more factors, kind of in their favour. For example, the travel that has to be done for other teams. So it's kind of psychological, It's having the New Zealand Warriors in there is a bit sort of a psychological thing. But what I will say is there are going to be more teams that I think are going to be on the prowl more than sort of the ones that are expected from 2023. There is people expecting that Brisbane might drop out a little bit, which could be considered. You also got teams coming up. For example, you got the Roosters now coming in as potential title threats. Penrith is still going to be very hard to beat. And you've even got some of the lower tier teams actually starting to get better squads who actually gave the Warriors a bit of trouble last year, like Manly being a key example. Now, obviously, it's going to be very hard to predict of what's happened. If you were to tell a Warriors fan that this is the type of conversation we'd be having over a year ago, they'd think you're nuts. But I do think it's a very exciting time, and even though this is a bit of a spontaneous premiership window, I think you have to consider them title contenders. Like, you just have to. Like, their team is ridiculously solid. They've got a fortress over there in New Zealand. They are also a team that can win on the road. Who knows? Who knows what we see? And then again, it's also in the same vein, who knows if they just don't fall off the face of the earth like some other teams who have been in like that prelim grand final position, because it has happened over the last couple of years. So yeah, regardless of what happens this year, I think it's a very exciting time for the Warriors. I mean, it's their 30th year in the top flight of rugby league in this competition. They're having a massive commercial boom. It's just going to be very exciting to see. So thank you all for watching this video. Do you think that the Warriors are title contenders for 2024? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.